أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the second episode of the Notable Sayyids series, where we select a notable individual from the progeny of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we discuss their contribution towards Islam, their standing in Islamic history, and if required, to defend any doubts against them which may have arisen by any particular party or person. The person who I have selected for this episode, episode 2, is Abu Muhammad al-Hassan ibn al-Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam. So he is Hassan, the son of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. And he is often known as you know, later he became known by this suffix, this title. He is known as Al-Hassan al-Muthanna. And why is he called Al-Hassan al-Muthanna? Al-Muthanna here literally means the doubled. The reason why he is called the doubled, Al-Hassan al-Muthanna, this is a reference to him having the same name as his father, Al-Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam. He was called this to avoid confusion between him and his blessed father alayhi salam, as they are both called Hassan and they are both right next to each other in the lineage, their father and son. So they're right next to each other and it could cause confusion. So they called him Al-Hassan al-Muthanna, or Hassan the doubled. The same goes for the son of Al-Hassan al-Muthanna, who's Al-Hassan ibn al-Hassan ibn al-Hassan alayhi salam. So as you can see, it does get quite confusing because now there's 3 Hassans in a row. So there's Imam Hassan alayhi salam, the grandfather, the son Al-Hassan al-Muthanna, and then another son called Al-Hassan. This Al-Hassan is called Al-Muthallath, or in the place of Al-Muthanna, he's called Al-Muthallath, and this means Al-Hassan the tripled, but that is a discussion for another time, inshallah. The mother of Al-Hassan al-Muthanna is Khawla bint Manzur. And regarding the marriage of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam with Khawla, Ibn Anaba mentions in Umdat al-Talib that when her father, Manzur ibn Zabban, heard of this marriage, he entered Medina, planted his flag at the gates of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih, and no tribal member remained in the city except that they came under his banner. So he gathered his tribe. He then said, "Is it right that someone like me should be overruled in my daughter's marriage?" They replied, "No." So when Al-Hassan alayhi salam saw this, he handed her over to her father, who took her in a litter and left the city, or intended to leave the city. When they reached Al-Baqi', she said to him, "Oh my father, where are you going? This is Al-Hassan ibn Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam, and the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih." He replied, "If he has any need of you, he will follow us." So as they reached the palm groves near the city, Al-Hassan alayhi salam, Al-Hussein alayhi salam, and Abdullah ibn Ja'far al-Tayyar alayhi salam caught up with them. He then handed her over to them and they returned to the city. Regarding the birth of Al-Hassan al-Muthanna, this is a matter which requires an extensive discussion. However, we can summarize the key points here. It's mentioned in some sources that he was born in the approximate year of 37 AH. Why approximate? Because it was either the year 37 after Hijrah, or at the very least within 4 years after this. However, it could go beyond this, according to my understanding. This is because the marriage of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam and the mother of al-Hassan al-Muthanna, Khawla bint Manzur bin Zabban, she married Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam after the Battle of Jamal. We know this because the previous husband of Khawla bint Manzur was Muhammad ibn Talha bin Ubaidullah, who was killed in the Battle of Jamal, which occurred in the year 36 after Hijrah. The year of birth, according to what I have extrapolated from sources, is 45 after the migration, which I will get to when we discuss the death of the Sayyid. What do the scholars say about him? Al-Mufid says about him in Al-Irshad, فَأَمَّا الْحَسَنُ بْنُ الْحَسَنِ فكان رجلا جليلا رئيسا فاضلا ورعا وكان يلي صدقات أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام في وقته. As for Al-Hassan ibn al-Hassan, he was a great dignified man, a leader, a pious individual. He was in charge of the charity of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam in his time. Sayyid ibn Tawus, who happens to be from the descendants of Al-Hassan al-Muthanna, after listing the name of Al-Hassan al-Muthanna in a group of others, says, إِنَّ هَؤُلَاءِ الْأَكَابِرِ يُقِرُّ بِفَضِيلَتِهِمْ وَعُلُوِّ دَرَجَتِهِمْ كُلُّ مُسْلِمٍ. Indeed, these eminent individuals are acknowledged for their virtue and elevated rank by every Muslim. As far as his own marriage is concerned, who did he marry? What are the circumstances of that marriage? What has been narrated? وروي أن الحسن بن الحسن عليه السلام خطب إلى عمه الحسين عليه السلام إحدى ابنتيه، فقال له الحسين عليه السلام اختر يا بني أحبهما إليك، فاستحيا الحسن ولم يحر جوابا، فقال له الحسين عليه السلام فإني قد اخترت لك ابنتي فاطمة فهي أكثرهما شبها بفاطمة أم بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. So it is narrated that Al-Hassan ibn al-Hassan al-Muthanna is being intended here, alayhi salam, proposed to his uncle Al-Hussein alayhi salam for the hand of one of his daughters. Al-Hussein alayhi salam said to him, choose my son, whichever of them is more beloved to you. Al-Hassan felt shy and did not respond. Al-Hussein alayhi salam then said, I have chosen for you my daughter Fatima, as she resembles my mother Fatima, daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. As far as his role in Karbala is concerned, was he present? What does history say? Everybody agrees that he was present. If we assume he was born in the year 45 after the migration precisely, that makes his age 16 in Karbala. So Al-Mufid mentions, upon the request for his safety of the first cousin of his mother, who was Asma bin Kharija, Umar ibn Sa'ad la'anahullah reportedly said, دعوا لأبي حسان ابن أخته, leave for Abi Hassan, the son of his sister. And that was the kunya of the mentioned Kharija. Other accounts attribute this saying to Ibn Ziyad la'anahullah. In Muthir al-Ahzan by Ibn Nama al-Hilli, it is mentioned, فَلَمَّا أَصْبَحَ غدا برأسي إلى ابن زياد واجتمع الناس للنظر إلى سبي آل الرسول وقرة عين البتول، فأشرفت امرأة من الكوفة وقالت من أي الأسارة أنتن؟ فقلنا نحن أسارة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله، فنزلت وجمعت ملاء وإزارا ومقانع وأعطتهن فتغطينا، وعلي بن الحسين عليهما السلام معهن، والحسن بن الحسن المثنى، وكان قد نقل من المعركة وبه رمق. So it's mentioned regarding Khawli that when Khawli woke up, he went with the head to Ibn Ziyad, and the people gathered to see the captives of the messenger, of the family of the messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, and the delight of the eye of Al-Batul Sayyidah Zahra Salamullahi alayha. A woman from Kufa looked out and said, "Which of the captives are you?" And they said, "We are the captives of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi." So she came down, collected a cloak, a garment, and veils, and gave them to them. So they covered themselves. And Ali ibn al-Hussein, peace be upon them, was with them. And al-Hasan ibn al-Hasan al-Muthanna was also with them. And he had been carried from the battlefield, and while he had breath left. And this was while he had a breath left. And with them were Zayd and Umar, the sons of al-Hasan, peace be upon him, salamullahi alayhi. So from this tradition, we can see Al-Hasan ibn al-Hasan alayhi salam was brought as a prisoner too with the rest of the Ahlul Bayt. So this is one version of events which has been reported in the books of history. This can, however, be seen as a conflict with the narrations that say Zayd and Al-Hasan al-Muthanna, the sons of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, were taken to Kufa by the uncle of Al-Hasan al-Muthanna. Talking about Kharija. So this is something we should bring to your attention, that both of these versions of history have been narrated. And there's one way to reconcile both by taking a part of both traditions. It's possible that these Sayyids were interceded for by the uncle of Hasan al-Muthanna alayhi salam. Sorry, pardon me. It is likely then that these Sayyids were interceded for by the uncle of Hasan al-Muthanna, but they were not taken away from the rest and were with the rest of the prisoners. As far as his character is concerned, I mentioned to you the praise of Al-Hasan al-Muthanna from Al-Mufid and Sayyid ibn Tawus al-Hasani. There are reports, particularly in Shi'i narrations, of disputes between Al-Hasan al-Muthanna and Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam. Or as we mentioned in the previous episodes, the first episodes of the Notable Sayyid series, regarding Zayd ibn al-Hasan's supposed dispute with Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, for which I provided reasons why the narration surrounding that is false. There is no doubt, particularly in the case of Hassanis and Hussainis, there were misunderstandings between them, and this is shown by Al-Kafi with the narration which says, and the hadith is Hassan. In the hadith, after Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam discusses the items that the Imams of the lineage of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam possess as proof of the Imamah, Ibn Abi Ya'fur asks him about whether the children of Al-Hasan alayhi salam knew about this. So the narration is as follows. Ibn Abi Ya'fur says, أصلحك الله أيعرف هذا بنو الحسن. So Ibn Abi Ya'fur said to the Imam, may Allah keep you well, do the children of Al-Hasan alayhi salam know about this? So all the things that you have mentioned that you have in your possession, which is a proof of your imamah. فَقَالَ إِي وَاللَّهِ كَمَا يَعْرِفُونَ اللَّيْلَ أَنَّهُ لَيْلٌ وَالنَّهَارَ أَنَّهُ نَهَارٌ. That, yes, by Allah, the way they know the night that it is the night, and the day that it is the day. وَلَكِنَّهُمْ يَحْمِلُهُمُ الْحَسَدُ وَطَلَبُ الدُّنْيَا عَلَى الْجُحُودِ وَالْإِنْكَارِ وَلَوْ طَلَبُوا الْحَقَّ بِالْحَقِّ لَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُمْ. However, then the Imam says in the tradition, but jealousy and worldly gains caused them to act in denial and rejection. Had they sought the truth with the truth, it would have been better for them. So we understand that disputes and disagreements occurred, but how should a Muslim, now I'm addressing particularly the Shi'i listener of these, if there's any Shi'i who's listening, how should we view these incidents? In what light should we view the sons of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam who disputed with the A'imma alayhum salam? So Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam makes it clear in the following Sahih Hadith in Al-Kafi. So it is narrated from Zurara an Abd al-Malik. Zurara narrates from Abd al-Malik قال, he said, وقع بين أبي جعفر وبين ولد الحسن عليه السلام كلام. So words were exchanged between Abi Ja'far, Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, and a son of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. فبلغني ذلك فدخلت على أبي جعفر عليه السلام فذهبت أتكلم. So this reached me, this news that there's a discussion going on. Now this implies that there's an argument going on. So I entered upon Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, Abi Ja'far alayhi salam, and then in order to speak about the issue. فقال لي, this is the important part we should pay attention to. فقال لي مه لا تدخل فيما بيننا. Then Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam responded by saying, shh, do not enter what is between us. And then ila akhirihi, then the narration goes on. Now, Mazandarani in his Sharh of Usul al-Kafi explains, وَالْأَوْلَى أَنَّهُ أَرَادَ, what is preferred, the interpretation of what the Imam alayhi salam said when he said don't enter between us. The preferred is that he intended, the preferred interpretation is that he said, لا تدخل بيني وبين عمي فإني لا أريد أن يدخل بيننا ثالث غير الله تعالى. So it's as if the Imam is saying, do not come between me and my uncle, for I do not anyone to come between us except Allah the Exalted. So we can see from this hadith that when such disputes took place, the Imam alayhi salam did not permit others to make judgments, even though according to Shi'i tradition, the Imam is ma'asum, whose defense is obligatory. I think this is the view that should be adopted by specifically the Shia who are watching this. However, just because there were disputes, this doesn't mean you level whatever accusation you want at him or the other sons of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam without solid evidence. You have some people, and I mean shuyukh, khutaba, lecturers, and other people who use mursal traditions, disconnected traditions, to try and put down certain personalities from the Sayyids. However, we have already established to make any accusations about anybody, now for any person, let alone a descendant of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one should ensure that the mursal, that the chains are not mursal, and the chains with majhul narrators should not be used to establish the guilt of these figures. Some examples of such hadith are what are found in Al-Ihtijaj by At-Tabrasi, and this is related to the character of the sons of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. وَرُوِيَ عَنْهُ صلوات الله عليه قال ليس منا أحد إلا وله عدو من أهل بيته فقيل له بنو الحسن لا يعرفون لمن الحق قال بلى ولكن يمنعهم الحسد. So Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says there's none, according to this tradition, in this tradition, there is none amongst us who does not have an enemy from his own Ahlul Bayt, from his own household. He was asked, the sons of Al-Hasan alayhi salam, do they not recognize where the truth lies? He replied, indeed, they do recognize it, but envy prevents them from recognizing it, basically. Although a part of the tradition is backed by a Hasan hadith in Al-Kafi, which mentions that there was envy, the part which implies that he is an enemy of the Imam, meaning the first part of the hadith, where it's being implied that every imam has an enemy from his household, needs solid backing, and the chain is mursal. Another hadith is as follows: An Abi Ya'qub قال لقيت أنا ومعل بن خنيس الحسن بن علي بن أبي طالب عليه السلام فقال يا يهودي فأخبرنا بما قال فينا جعفر بن محمد عليه السلام فقال هو والله أولى باليهودية منكما إن اليهودي من شرب الخمر. It's reported from Abu Yaqub that he said, Al-Mu'alla ibn Khunais and I met Al-Hasan ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, and he said to me, O Jew. So we related what he said to Ja'far ibn Muhammad alayhi salam, who said, by Allah, he is closer to Judaism than the two of you. Verily, the one who consumes wine is a Jew. This implies that Hassan al-Muthanna, the son of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, drank alcohol. But once again, this is mursal. And the implication is contradicted with the following tradition. So, in another mursal tradition, قال, the narrator says, سمعت أبا عبد الله عليه السلام يقول لو توفي الحسن بن الحسن بالزنا والربا وشرب الخمر كان خيرا مما توفي عليه. The Abi Yaqub is quoted as saying, if that I heard Imam Sadiq alayhi salam say, if Al-Hasan ibn al-Hasan died while committing adultery, taking usury, and drinking alcohol, it would have been better than the way he died. This is also, as I mentioned, a mursal tradition. So if you're going to rely on mursal traditions anyway, which is, as I mentioned, not correct when accusing somebody, which is it? Did he drink alcohol? Did he not drink alcohol? In such circumstances where everything is contradicting, doesn't really add up, doesn't make sense, and the proofs are all, well, if you can establish them and qualify them as proofs, are of this quality and of this standard, these are better disregarded unless someone brings up solid evidence, and then we can discuss on. Regarding a famous narration of him abusing Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam, let's analyze this too. It is narrated in Al-Irshad. Abu Muhammad al-Hasan ibn Muhammad, with his chain going to Muhammad ibn Ja'far and others, it stated, وقف على علي بن الحسين رجل من أهل بيته فأسمعه وشتمه فلم يكلمه فلما انصرف قال لجلسائه لقد سمعتم ما قال هذا الرجل وأنا أحب أن تبلغوا معي إليه حتى تسمعوا مني ردي عليه. قال فقالوا له نفعل ولقد كنا نحب أن يقول له ويقول. فأخذ نعليه ومشى وهو يقول والكاظمين الغيظ والعافين عن الناس والله يحب المحسنين. فعلمنا أنه لا يقول له شيئا قال فخرج حتى أتى منزل الرجل فصرخ به فقال قولوا له هذا علي بن الحسين. قال فخرج إلينا متوثبا للشر وهو لا يشك أنه إنما جاء مكافئا له على بعض ما كان منه. فقال له علي بن الحسين عليه السلام يا أخي إنك كنت قد وقفت علي آنفا فقلت وقلت فإن كنت قلت ما في فأستغفر الله منه فإن كنت قلت ما ليس في فغفر الله لك. قال فقبل الرجل بين عينيه وقال بل قلت فيك ما ليس فيك وأنا أحق به. قال الراوي للحديث وَالرَّجُلُ هُوَ الْحَسَنُ بْنُ الْحَسَنِ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ. So the chain of Abu Muhammad al-Hasan ibn Muhammad, going back to Muhammad ibn Ja'far and others, who said, a man from the Ahlul Bayt of Imam Ali ibn al-Husayn alayhi salam came to him and insulted him. But he did not respond to him. When the man left, Ali ibn al-Husayn said to his companions, you have heard what this man said, and I would like you to accompany me so that you may hear my reply to him. They replied, we will go. And they said, and they said, we would love to hear what you would have said to him. So he took his sandals and walked and recited and the verse of the Holy Quran, and those who restrain anger and pardon people, Allah loves the doers of good. We realized then, the narrators are saying, we realized then that he would not say anything to him. So he continued until he reached the man's house and called out to him. He told the people to tell him Ali ibn al-Husayn is here. The man came out ready for confrontation, and he thought that Imam Ali Zainul Abidin alayhi salam had come to respond to what he had done. So Imam Ali ibn al-Husayn alayhi salam, Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, said to him, my brother, you stood before me earlier and said such and such. If what you said about me is true, I seek forgiveness from Allah for it. And if what you said about me is not true, then may Allah forgive you. The man kissed Ali ibn al-Husayn alayhi salam's forehead and said, rather, I said what was not true about you, and I am the one who is more deserving of it. The narrator of this story then stated that the man was al-Hasan ibn al-Hasan. May Allah be pleased with him. Is this narration Hujjah? The narration is weak, as it is Abu Muhammad al-Hasan ibn Muhammad, who is weak according to al-Qada'iri. Did he claim imama? This is another thing of interest when speaking about al-Hasan al-Muthanna, in particular from a Shi'i lens. وَمَضَى الْحَسَنُ بْنُ الْحَسَنِ وَلَمْ يَدَّعِ الْإِمَامَةِ وَلَا إِدَّعَاهَا لَهُ مُدَّعٍ. So Al-Hasan ibn al-Hasan passed away without claiming imama, nor did anyone claim it for him. According to the sources, he took part in the rebellion of Abdul Rahman ibn Muhammad ibn al-Ash'ath against Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi. How interesting history is indeed. It was the same Abdul Rahman who was of those responsible for the arrest of Muslim ibn Aqil alayhi salam in Kufa, when Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam sent him. Arguably, one may say, it can be interpreted to be the choosing of Al-Hasan al-Muthanna between two evils, and he chose the lesser, although both of them were cut from the same cloth. May Allah forgive all of our shortcomings. As far as his passing is concerned, Al-Mufid mentions that he was 35 at the time of death, but that makes no sense at all. This is a mistake on his part, as Al-Mufid acknowledges the presence of Al-Hasan al-Muthanna in Karbala, and if 97 to 99 Hijri is indeed the range within which Al-Hasan al-Muthanna died, then this would be absurd, as if we take 97 being the earliest year of the range as his death year, and his death and his age at the time of death was 35, then he was born a year after Karbala, which occurred in 61, and it would be impossible for Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam to have fathered him, bearing in mind Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam passed in 58 after Hijrah. This is the latest year which has been mentioned for his passing, with others mentioning 49 and 50 being the most probable. Ibn Ainaba also mentions that he passed away while his age was 35. However, in the version of Umdat al-Talib of Ibn Ainaba, which is annotated by Sayyid Muhammad Hassan al-Taliqani, it is mentioned that Al-Hasan al-Muthanna passed away 48 years after the death of his father, alayhi salam. If we go with the most probable martyrdom year of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, which is 50 after the migration, then that would make the death of Al-Hasan al-Muthanna in 98 after the Hijrah, which seems accurate. Now, we know that Al-Mufid didn't just invent a number for the age of Al-Hasan al-Muthanna randomly. So it's very likely he accidentally inverted the numbers, making his actual age at his death 53 in the year 98 after the Hijrah. After his death, his wife Fatima bint al-Hussein alayha salam wa alayhi salam made a tent on his grave, and she engaged in worshipping for a year amongst other a'mal and cried often. This Al-Hasan al-Muthanna continued through his sons named Abdullah al-Mahd, Ibrahim al-Ghamr, Dawood, Ja'far, and the mentioned Al-Hasan al-Muthallath. Thank you for joining me on this mukhtasar, brief biography of Al-Hasan al-Muthanna. And we hope you'll join us for episode 3 of the Notable Sayyid series, where we discuss another prominent figure from Al-Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.